Good morning, guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today's video was inspired by a conversation that I recently had with a fellow YouTuber who's a friend of mine, and we were talking about things we can't stand when we go shopping for perfumes and things that happen at the perfume counter that are super annoying. And I recently had an experience at a perfume counter in a high-end department store, and actually twice, because I was there 2 times during the same week, and it was just kind of like a repeat of the first day, and it really honestly puts me off of ever wanting to physically go into a perfume counter at a department store and smell perfumes again. And this isn't to say that this happens at every perfume counter or that this is across the board how it is for everybody, but especially if you are a person who's into perfume, you're a perfume enthusiast, you have, like me, smelled hundreds if not thousands of different fragrances, you have a large collection, and you're not just a typical kind of person off the street who has a baseline or no knowledge about fragrance at all. I think for people who can relate to my situation, you probably will be able to find things in this video that you can really relate to. And I just think some of these points are really interesting and really funny. So this is meant to be a lighthearted video. It's not meant to be criticizing anybody. It's just kind of funny, and it's something that I think a lot of people can really resonate with. So let me know down below as you're listening to today's video. Let me know if you can relate to any of these points. Also, drop down below if you have something that you think is super annoying when you go shopping for perfumes, or an experience that happened to you when you were at a perfume counter shopping for perfumes. I'm looking forward to talking to you guys down below and seeing if you guys can resonate with some of the things that I'm going to say. Okay, so without further ado, let's get on started into today's video. Okay, so the first thing, and I know that this doesn't apply to the general population, and this is a question that I get asked without a doubt every single time I go to a perfume counter, and it's a question that I dread because my answer, because I am a perfume enthusiast who's tried hundreds if not thousands of fragrances, my answer is going to be a little bit different than that of the general population. And I know that most of the people who go to the perfume counter on a day-to-day basis are not people like myself or like some of you who are watching this video who are super perfume enthusiasts. They're just the typical person who, you know, maybe has 1 or 2 perfumes. They don't have a huge collection. They haven't tried everything. So it's a very valid question to ask them. But for somebody like myself, this question is one I just don't know how to answer. And that is, so what are you looking for? What do you like? What kind of perfumes are you into? And that question is geared toward people who might actually be looking for a specific perfume. Maybe they need a new perfume. Maybe they're looking for a gift for somebody. But for myself and other people who are perfume enthusiasts or who have tried literally hundreds or thousands of fragrances, there is really nothing that I'm looking for in particular, and there's not one particular thing I like. I love a ton of different fragrances and lots of different notes, and this is a question I just really don't know how to answer, because the truth is, when they ask me that, I end up saying, well, I'm actually not looking for one particular thing. I actually collect perfumes, and I have a channel, and I have already smelled most of these fragrances. I just kind of want to come and sniff them all, like on my own kind of thing. For some reason, it's really difficult to just get some time to the perfumes on your own without having somebody trying to sell you something or show you something or upsell something, and it just gets to be a little bit much. So really, I'm not looking for anything in particular. I just kind of want to come smell them all. Like, it's what I do. I can't help myself. I love perfume. So when I go to a Neiman Marcus or a Saks, I just will go smell them all. I really just don't know how to answer that question of what are you looking for? And let me know if you can relate, if you are a perfume connoisseur and they don't know how much experience you have with perfumes. I just don't know how to answer that question, and it ends up being a long drawn out answer, and it kind of paints the mood for the rest of the shopping experience because they continue to try to sell you stuff even though you don't really need to be sold anything. Like, there's a very good chance you're going to walk out of there with a perfume if they just leave you to your devices and not try to upsell stuff. So anyway, that's my first frustration, is kind of the whole like beginning of the experience of going into the store as a perfume enthusiast, is the question of what are you looking for, what do you like, and then they proceed to try to sell you stuff when really you don't really need to be sold anything. And let me know if you guys kind of know what I'm saying. To me, this makes sense, but I really hate that question of, so what do you like? Because I literally like so many different olfactive families. I like so many different things. I'm not going to sit here and tell you all the 30 favorite notes I have, because I don't have time or energy for that. I just want to smell my perfume and drink my coffee and have a nice afternoon. That's all I want. So this brings me to point number 2, and this is what usually proceeds to happen for the rest of the trip or the rest of the shopping experience in the store, is ignoring you when you say you've already smelled an entire line, or ignoring you when you say you've pretty much smelled everything and you just kind of want to re-experience them or like kind of look around. So they ignore when you say that, and then they proceed to spray their best sellers on strips and hand you the strips even though you say no thank you, I've already smelled this, or thanks, but I've already owned that, or I've already tried it. It's almost as if they are trained to pick up their best sellers, say something nice about the perfume that will upsell it, like, oh, this is our best seller. If you want to smell unique, you have to have this one. This is the one that is going to get you compliments. They say things like that, and then they spray the strip and hand it to you, even though you've already said, thanks, but I've already smelled the entire collection. Literally, I've literally already smelled and owned every Parfum de Marly. I do not need you to spray it on a strip, but thank you, and it just happens continually. And some of them straight up just ignore you, spray it and hand it to you, and then you don't want to feel like you're being rude and completely ignore the fact that they've handed you a strip. So out of being courteous and polite, you take the strip and you smell it because that's the thing to do, but it's super annoying because it's literally perfume I've already smelled 10 times before and probably don't like, otherwise I would already own it. Pretty much not listening to me as a shopper when I tell you what I'm here for, which is I'm not looking for one thing in particular. I don't really need help finding anything. I just kind of want to smell them all again and experience them all again. And I say to them, I'm perfectly fine picking them up at the atomizer and just kind of sniffing at the atomizer. So they just kind of ignore you and just continually try to spray and upsell everything. And this brings me to point number 3, which is hounding you instead of giving you space. So when you walk into a perfume counter, I honestly, you guys, it's to the point that I almost don't even want to go back to a physical counter. I'm happier to order scents, to order samples online and try them at home and make my decision that way, because the experience of actually going shopping at the perfume counter is so frustrating. And that is when you get hounded instead of being allowed to just walk around and enjoy the perfumes and discover them on your own. It's very overwhelming, and I don't know if they realize that even though they have a job to do, and I know that they work on commission, and I know that this is what they're taught to do, and they want to be a good salesperson and all of this kind of stuff. So they're taught that they should approach you, talk to you, find out what you're looking for, find out what you like, find out what you already wear, and then proceed to show you perfumes that you might like. I'm sure that this is what they're taught. However, especially for somebody who, like myself, I've already pretty much smelled everything, I just kind of want to come and look on my own. I just want to pick the bottles up, give it a sniff at the atomizer, and take my time. And they don't give you space. There's usually at least one person who stands right by your side, making small talk with you, basically watching you as you're smelling these perfumes, and you feel then obligated, like you have to tell them your thoughts or talk to them. It's extremely awkward. Like when I pick up a paper strip and I smell a perfume, I don't need you watching me, waiting for my response. Just leave me alone, like I just want to sit there and enjoy and smell the perfume. Don't like being watched. You don't need an audience. If I'm going to buy a perfume, I'm going to buy a perfume, but you standing here watching me, asking me questions, basically hovering over my shoulder as I do this is not going to help sell the perfume. If anything, I'm more likely to walk away out of frustration and feeling just overwhelmed. Like there's too many people around, there's too many people trying to sell me perfumes. I literally was at a counter the other day, and I was at the Wilhelm Parfumerie section, and I was smelling all of them, and by the time I was done kind of even looking at the labels, I had been there for like 2 minutes. There was about 3 people all standing around me handing me strips of Xerjoff and Tiziana and Parfum de Marly, and I had all these strips in front of me, and it was just so overwhelming and time consuming and frustrating because I really just wanted to be left alone with the bottles. And it's really difficult to take time and enjoy the fragrance and discover what it is that I even want when there's like 5 people talking to you, trying to hand you strips, trying to find out what you're after. And they treat you like a spectacle almost. Like they're like, one person will be like your advocate sort of, and he'll walk around with you and say, so she likes this and she's already smelled that and she's looking for this. It's like, this is overwhelming. I don't need whatever it is that you're doing, I don't need you to do this. I just need you to leave me alone with a few strips and the bottles. Just if you do that, trust me, I will find what I'm looking for. I don't need you to be my spokesperson. And then as they're doing that, they start telling the next person at the next counter things that aren't even true. Like they'll say, so she really likes fruity perfumes. And then they'll go ahead and spray their fruitiest fragrance. Like they'll say, oh, you absolutely have to try Pulp from Byredo. And I'm like, no, not that fruity. Like, no, not that kind of fruity. Like, you're not, I know what I like. I don't want just because I tell you, because you asked me the question, what are you looking for? And I say, well, I like a little bit of everything. And I like, some fruity florals. And I like some gourmands. And I like a little bit of spicy and some woody. So then you just assume that I'm going to love Pulp because I said the word fruity. No, like, do you guys understand what I'm saying? Like, it just becomes this rat race of people trying to sell you stuff based on little things you said that then end up wasting the time for your entire shopping trip, and you end up walking away frustrated and empty-handed, when if they just would have left you alone and given you like maybe 10 or 15 minutes alone, you would have almost guaranteed found one, rather than wasting their time trying to upsell you all these perfumes. They're totally going in the wrong direction because they don't realize that you already kind of know what you're doing. You already kind of know like what you like and what you don't like, and you don't need to be shown all of these perfumes. So that was kind of long-winded, but let me know if you guys can relate to that one. So basically being hounded and being oversold and over-promoting things instead of just giving you space. So number 4 is not being willing to give you samples or pretending they don't have samples until you make a purchase. Now, I know this has happened to other people because I've spoken to other people and they've said the same thing happened to them. So one day I was at the Neiman Marcus and I was looking at the Harmonist fragrances. And I had asked them if they had any samples that I could take with me. And they were like, oh, it's like pulling teeth trying to get samples. We don't have very many samples, and we're really running low. We don't have any of this one. I don't know if they think this is helpful, like they think that you're more likely to buy the bottle. I don't know if they think you're just going to take the sample and go home and never come back and purchase a bottle. So they don't want to just give you samples. They would rather talk you into buying a full bottle. I think that must be the angle, because after you finally do make a purchase, all of a sudden they've got hundreds of samples and they flood you with samples and they put tons of samples in your bag. So it's almost like they want to give you that first full bottle sale. They want to make money, but then they also want to give you samples so that you come back again and buy another bottle. And that's really a shady way to do business, and it is not helpful or productive, because you have to remember, you guys have a really good return policy. So if I purchase a full bottle today that wasn't the right one for me because I didn't sample it properly because you wouldn't give me a sample, I'm probably going to return it. So you're really doing yourself a disservice by not allowing me to sample the perfume properly, especially for being a high-end boutique. I know that you guys have little atomizers. I know that you have little decants. I know that you can take this bottle and spray me a ml in that little decanter and let me take it home. But for some reason, you're not willing to do that. And that is really frustrating and really shady. And I actually had that happen to me recently at a Neiman Marcus. They wouldn't give me any samples of the Harmonist collection until I purchased a bottle of Harmonist perfume, and all of a sudden they gave me like 15 samples. So that was really frustrating. And I know they had samples back there, like decants, that they could have made it for me, because the lady right beside them at the amouage counter made me like 3 amouage decants right there in front of me. So I know they could have done it. This is just a shady way to do business. And what's really frustrating about this, and another thing that inspired me to make this video, is that first full bottle of Harmonist that I did purchase ended up being a flop, complete flop. Why? Because of all the things I've talked about the people hounding, the people trying to upsell, the 10,000 strips on the counter. My nose was confused. If I would have ended up with a sample, I would not have purchased that. I would have ended up with a different one, and I would have made the right purchase. And that is just extremely frustrating and not good customer service whatsoever. So that would be number 4, not willing to give you samples until you make a purchase. So number 5 is salespeople sort of looking at you as though they're judging you or trying to determine if you actually have money to spend at their counter, or if you somehow have some sort of qualities that make you sort of worthy, or like you're in the right area of the store to be purchasing $500 perfumes. And I know that this happens to a lot of people. I've had them kind of look you up and down a little bit when I've gone shopping, but usually when I go shopping at these higher end boutiques, I'm kind of already on vacation. I am dressed really nicely, and I don't really worry that they're sort of judging you or making judgments. But I have had friends tell me that they go in on the weekend when they're running errands or something like that, so they're really not dressed very fancy. They have like sweatpants on, they don't have a ton of makeup done, their hair is like thrown back in like a messy bun, they've got sneakers, and they're just like walking in while they're doing errands or whatever. Sales associates will sort of look at them as though like, what are you doing here? Like, do you really belong here? And they sort of are not very polite. They treat you a little bit differently based on your appearance. Whereas if you walk in a really nice outfit, you've got some cute shoes on, you're carrying a nice handbag, they're much more likely to treat you with a little bit more respect and as if you kind of know what you're doing. And it's really funny because once they realize that these people who are walking in sweatpants and like a t-shirt and they're just kind of like browsing real quick on their way home, once they realize that that person actually knows what they're talking about and they understand notes and they understand perfume and the perfume lingo, so to speak, they kind of think like, oh, okay, this person actually does know what they're talking about, and maybe I should give them a little more assistance instead of kind of treating them like, oh, what are they doing here? They're not going to buy any perfume. They're not serious about perfume. They don't know anything about perfume. So it's just a reminder to never judge people by the cover, because you really never know who's on the other side of the perfume counter. And just because they're dressed for a day off very casually doesn't mean that they don't have big bucks to spend in the store, and it doesn't mean that they may not walk out with one of your more high-end fragrances. So the next point is not having tester strips available at the counter. Now, I don't know why they don't have strips available. I don't know if it contributes to the whole feeling and the atmosphere of a high-end boutique, which is that, you know, you have to have somebody spray it for you, and having strips out maybe makes it look cheaper or something. I'm not really sure what the rationale behind this is, or if it's part of a sales tactic, because obviously if you want to spray something on a strip, you're going to have to talk to somebody, and that's a chance for them to upsell you the perfume, or to lead you down a path of maybe finding a better perfume. I'm not sure if that's part of their tactic, but for whatever reason, they do not have strips available to smell perfumes. And again, this just goes back to making it very frustrating, because I don't know about you guys, but myself, when I go looking at perfumes, I just want to be left alone with the strips and the perfumes. I just want to be able to pick the perfume up, give it a little sniff at the atomizer, see if it smells like something I might want to spray on a strip, and then maybe put on my skin. And I don't want you to have to pick up the bottles, every bottle, and spray them all for me individually. This takes a lot of time. It's overwhelming. It's going to cause olfactive fatigue. I don't want to smell a fresh spray of every single thing you have here. I just kind of want to be left alone with the strip and make my own determination as to what I might like to spray. If they would have the strips out and allow people time to be able to just go and spray the perfume at their own leisure, guarantee you will make a sale, because I will probably talk myself into purchasing a perfume. Newsflash, I'm really good at this. I'm really good at talking myself into buying perfumes I don't need. I don't need you to do it for me. But if you would just have strips out, I will 9 times out of 10 end up spraying one that jives with me, that I like. But for some reason, they don't have strips out, and it's just ends up becoming a huge time waster, and it ends up just repeating everything I've already talked about in this video of this whole whirlwind of upselling too many people, very overwhelming, conversations that are not helpful, that are time consuming, and just walking away feeling frustrated and annoyed because you didn't get the time with the perfumes that you wanted, you didn't walk away with the perfume that you wanted, and you wasted a lot of time. Whereas if they just would have had strips, I could be in and out in 15-20 minutes, and I would have been able to smell all the ones I wanted to smell. So I think those are really the biggest things that I have found most frustrating when going to a perfume counter. Now, I have to say that I've had some really great experiences at counters. What I love and what I think people do really well is when you go up to a counter, you're kind of looking around, somebody approaches you, one person, not 5 people, and they say, "Hi, how are you today?" You know, and they're genuinely friendly. They're not being judgmental or looking you up and down or trying to look at your bag and judge whether or not you've got money to spend in their store. They're just genuinely friendly and say, "Thanks for coming in. Is there anything I can help you with?" And that's a really great question. Is there anything I can help you with? Because then I will tell you, like, yes, I'm looking for XYZ specifically, or I can say, "No, thanks. I'm honestly just browsing." And then they can kind of back off and give you your space. Do it with a smile, and even hand me some strips and say, "Here you go, yeah, just try anything you like." Or I've had this happen lots of times, or they'll say, "Oh, I don't know if you've seen our new one. I just want to let you know this is brand new," you know, and those kind of things I think are perfectly fine. It shows that they care, they're being polite, they're being helpful, they're there for you if you need help, but they're not going to hound you and try to upsell everything and follow you around as if they are your personal shopping partner and try to show everything to you. That can become very overwhelming. So that is something great that I think when they do, they're very friendly, they offer you help, but they do not hound you. They also make it available for you to spray if you want to spray, give you a couple of strips, tell you to take your time, and then let you know that they're going to be right over here if you need them for anything. That is honestly the best thing that they can do. And I think another great question that they can ask people if they want to get a feel for the person on the other side of the counter is, so are you new to these fragrances, or are you kind of a collector, or, you know, are you new to the world of fragrance? Have you tried any of these before? Are you new to Parfum de Marly? Are you new to the House of Kilian? Do you need help? Is there anything I can help you with? Is there anything you're looking for in particular that I can help you find? And just leave it at that, you know, and don't continue to try to upsell everything. If the person says, yeah, you know, I'm really looking for a new perfume because I really like something sweet, I'm looking for something fruity, I'm looking for this, well then obviously that's your cue to say, I have just the thing for you. I have just the thing that I think you might love, and let me show it to you. But ask those questions first and get a feel for how the other person already is experienced with perfume, or do they even need help, or what are they there for? Are they just here to browse, or are they specifically wanting to find a certain perfume? And the other thing is to be willing to give samples and be willing to make samples. So if somebody is looking at a perfume and they say, yeah, I'm really not sure if this is the one for me, offer to make them a sample, because maybe they don't know you can do that, so that they can actually test it and eventually come back in and purchase the right one for them, so that they're happy with their experience. They can then share that perfume with other people, maybe suggest friends and family go in and get it, and also that they don't end up returning it because it doesn't work. It's always better to send somebody away with a sample. It's no skin off your back, and they probably will end up coming back and getting the fragrance versus trying to upsell one that might be returned. So yeah, be willing to give samples, be generous. This is good customer service. And then lastly, like I said earlier, just to treat everybody on the other side of the counter as though they are a human being who is just interested in perfume, and not trying to judge right away, like whether or not they actually know anything about perfume, whether or not they actually would wear or purchase any of these perfumes, whether or not this is their type of thing. Like, who are they to know what type of thing the person on the other side of the counter, that's really not their call to make. It's just, you can really get this air of judgment from the other side of the counter. Yeah, so that is about it for today's video, you guys. Those are some of my perfume counter frustrations, things I have personally experienced, and things that I wish could be done differently. And let me know if you have experienced any of these things yourself. Let me know if you've also experienced something different that wasn't on this list, or something that really annoys you when you go perfume shopping, because I know this is kind of like a first world problem, like trivial thing, and it might come across a little bit nagging or complaining, and that's definitely not the intention of this video. It's just, I think it's kind of a funny topic to discuss, because I'm sure that there's a lot of people out there who've experienced similar things, and there's a lot I think that the customer service world could learn about making sales. And one of the biggest things I think is just not being pushy and not being overwhelming or overbearing. A lot of the times these sales reps don't realize that as people who are really into perfumes, and that perfume is becoming huge as a hobby for a lot of people, and with the internet out there and with influencers and YouTube and stuff, a lot of the times their customers have already heard about these perfumes. They've already heard the hype. They already heard how great they are. They've even researched notes. They've already done the research. They really don't need that. They just kind of need you to just give them time with the perfume, and 9 times out of 10 they will end up making the purchase. So just for them to be cognizant of the fact that like the sales is already done for them. I mean, really, I don't ever buy a perfume based on what a salesperson tells me. 9 times out of 10 I actually feel like they're almost putting me in the wrong direction, because I've already researched the fragrance before I even show up, and I kind of already know what I'm looking for before I even get there. So just something to keep in mind, some questions that might be better to ask, and some things that maybe to look out for. So that's it for today's video, you guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all very soon in my next one. Bye for now.